Yeah, so yeah, I'll warn you guys now. I'm about to embark on what I'm going to call a grand unified theory of Ted Lasso. So this may take a little bit, but hopefully it will give everyone a chance to sort of see things from a different perspective. When we think about toxic masculinity, healthy femininity, you name it, all these different characters, all these different things, I would argue that we often mistake what Ted Lasso is all about. If you read these stories about Ted Lasso, you'll see people saying, wow, this is a show about positivity. This is a show about hope. This is a show about optimism, right? We've all read these stories. We've all heard these things. But I don't think that that's what Ted Lasso is actually about. And in fact, the key to understanding this is the very thing you described, Tim, which is that the paradox at the center of Ted Lasso is here is this figure who is this figure of strength and all these different things for the people around him, is changing all these people's lives, yet he cannot change his own. The thing he cares about more than anything else, his family, his marriage, his relationship with his son, is the thing that he cannot actually change with his Ted Lassos. And that gets to the heart of what's actually going on, at least in my opinion. And my argument would be that the core lesson of Ted Lasso, the core value of Ted Lasso, that even Ted Lasso himself needs to understand, is the concept of acceptance. And here's what I mean by acceptance. I've gotten onto this acceptance kick over the past couple of days because of various conversations I've been having here at LassoCon, but just in general with some of these other communities I'm involved in. And I've been discussing, I have this group of authors. We have a special community, and we've been talking about imposter syndrome. And, you know, in looking at imposter syndrome, I think it's not about self-confidence or self-esteem, right? That's not how you overcome imposter syndrome. Self-acceptance is how you overcome imposter syndrome. Accepting who you actually are, what your characteristics are, both the good and the bad. And once you can accept the good and the bad, then you can either choose to accentuate the good, or you can choose to work on the bad, or you can choose to change. But it's impossible to change until you have acknowledged what is actually real. And what's been happening with Ted Lasso, if you look at it, there are a couple of things in Ted Lasso that he struggles with. He struggles with his wife. He struggles with the decision to bench Roy Kent. And he struggles very briefly with himself, with his feelings after he has his one night stand with Sassy. It was only a brief struggle, but there was a struggle nonetheless. And what all those things have in common is Ted Lasso refusing to accept reality. In the case of his relationship with his wife, the reality is it's just not working anymore, right? They wish that it would work. They want it to work. They wish that the truth was different, but they're unwilling to accept the truth. They're unwilling to accept the bad along with the good. And that struggle to accept the truth is the thing that causes the greatest tension in Ted, right? You see him wrestling with it. You see him causing anxiety attacks. You see him avoiding things like sending over the divorce papers, which he would normally just take care of immediately, because he's refusing to accept the truth. It's not about optimism. It's about acceptance. Same holds true for benching Roy. He's developed this wonderful relationship with Roy, who he sees as a fantastic human being. And Roy is a hero to so many, both on the club and in the fans in the stands. And yet, the truth is, Roy isn't as good as he once was. Roy is no longer their best chance to win. And Ted's refusal to accept that is the thing that causes the tension between him and Beard and Nate. And his refusal to accept the truth is mirrored by Roy's refusal to accept the truth. And the reason they don't want to accept the truth, at least in Roy's case, is because he believes that that's all he is, the great football star. And he's worried that if he accepts that truth, that he's accepting a diminished role. And so what I would say is acceptance is the key, the ability to accept yourself, the good and the bad, so that if you want to make a change, you can. But also importantly, the way Ted actually makes people be willing to be vulnerable is because he's accepting of them, whoever they are, whatever they are, for what they are. The reason vulnerability is so scary is because it's an opportunity for us to share our true selves, something that is really about our identity and who we are. And that's scary because when we share our true self, instead of being closed off and defensive, someone can reject us and really hurt us. But the way Ted brings everyone out is by his acceptance of them for who they are and what they are, whether they are Ollie, the driver who brings him to the flat and with whom he has that dinner at his father-in-law's restaurant, or Rebecca when he says, I forgive you. Divorce is hard. It makes people do crazy things. Or Roy, or Jamie Tartan, probably one of the most poignant relationships where Jamie is like, wait a minute, no, I can't make myself vulnerable. Jamie is so defensive because he's been hurt so much by his father. And yet you can see Ted slowly wearing him down, not by being optimistic, not by having hope, not by being nice, but by being accepting, by accepting who he is. And again, we see that happen throughout the show. And that acceptance of the self and then the acceptance of the other, I think, is the true message of Ted Lasso. So just to finish off, let's go over each of the main characters one by one. Ted Lasso struggles to accept the truth about himself and his marriage, struggles to accept the truth about Roy. That is his struggle of the season. Yet in the end, the reason he is not broken or discouraged by what happens at the end of the first season, or series as they say in the UK, is because he's able to accept losing. He doesn't deny that reality. Losing doesn't define him, doesn't define the team. If we look at Rebecca, Rebecca refuses to accept the reality of what's happened. Her husband left her. He was a jerk. You know what? She's better off without him. But she's consumed with the image people have of her. She's consumed with this notion of people are laughing at her, people are making fun of her. And of course, she's been hurt by these things. It's terribly unfair that it's happened. But only by accepting this did happen. And you know what? I have my own part to play in this, and I have behaved badly. Is she able to overcome those feelings? Keely is accepting of the truth. She's looking at herself in the mirror and saying, I've spent my entire decade dating these footballers. I started off when I was 19, now I'm 30. I'm still dating 21-year-old footballers. And she is willing to confront the notion of, wait a minute, is that all I am? And she says, you know what? That's what I was. That's not what I'm going to be in the future. And I'm going to choose a different path for myself. I'm going to choose a different path for my relationships. I'm going to make healthier choices. But it's only by accepting who she is or who she was that she's able to change into who she wants to be. And of course, her acceptance of Roy for who he is helps unlock Roy. Same for Roy. Roy has to understand he's more than just a footballer. Nate has to understand that not only is he the nice guy who helps everyone, but he has an edge to him, a dark side, the ability to see and to provoke if necessary, because that is also a part of who they are. Coach Beard has to accept that he needs to sometimes go against his own instincts. Every one of these characters, Higgins has to accept his complicity in Rupert's actions. Every single one of these characters learns the lessons of acceptance through season 1 of Ted Lasso.
Wait a minute. This first of all, Chris Ye, ladies and gentlemen. Second of all, after I heard that, I gotta see if I can do this. You just deserve this, Chris.
He's doing the dance.